I'm his sister. Since I was queen bee for 6 years, I wasn't sure I was going to like this baby. It was about to be born, but it turned out that Michael was quite cute. And I couldn't resist him when I sang a nonsense song to him, and he'd giggle and then give out with a laugh that came out right from his belly. When he learned to walk, he hit the ground running. He was so quick that when Mom took him out of the house out of frustration, she would put a harness on him with a leash, like a puppy. He liked to run through the house, hitting the sofa so hard, the stuffing jumped out of the sofa, and our long-suffering mother would take out a hammer, shove the stuffing back in, and hammer down the upholstery. I must tell you about his third summer. On a very hot afternoon, Mom had put him down for a nap without anything on, when he should have been sleeping. Instead, he climbed out of his crib, proceeded to prance out of the house, stark naked, wearing his father's fedora. I was sitting on the curb and so humiliated. I won't take you about the time he climbed up into the medicine cabinet and ate a whole package of X-Lax. Dad loved to tell a story about Michael, our dad. Michael was in the 2nd grade. It seems that the school principal stopped by Dad's office to share an incident with some amusement. It seems that Michael's teacher noticed that, as usual, he was fooling around and not paying attention during oral reading time. In an effort to teach him a lesson, the teacher asked him to pick up where Johnny had left off. After rifling through the pages, he blurted out, "That Johnny, he reads too damn fast." I do want to take a few moments to talk about from whence he came. All of us here have a history of life with our parents, and there's always a question of nature versus nurture. Certainly know that Michael was a gifted child, but did his early home life have any effect on him at all? Our grandparents, Nicholas and Florence Colgrass, emigrated from Italy with 3 boys, one of whom was our father, who was then 5 years old. Subsequently, 2 girls were born. When the youngest was 6 months old, tragedy struck when Nicholas died. Florence, a very young woman who could not speak English, was left in a new country with 5 small children. We're told she took in sewing and, probably with the help of paisans in Little Italy and Chicago, managed to raise those 5 children. Our father was then 11 years old. Legend has it that Dad entered the public school when he was unable to speak English, and apparently school agreed with him because he did learn English, spoke fluently without an accent, and went on to finish high school. Upon graduation, he got a job and subsequently wound up at a small, thriving organization, the Imperial Brass Company. He persuaded Mother to marry him when he was 22 and she was 19. During their first year together, he studied nights to become a certified cost accountant, which is that's no small feat. The Great Depression occurred during those years, and the employees were asked to take a cut in pay in order that no one should be let go. During that time, our rent went up $5, and Dad took a second job as a night watchman, and after a few hours of sleep, would get up and attend his next job, his day job. Financial security was always foremost in his mind, and he again studied and did pass the civil service examination to enable him to become postmaster of Brookfield, a small village west of Chicago. At that time, the post office was in a storefront on Main Street. There's a newspaper picture of my 2-year-old brother at the groundbreaking ceremony of a new building that was to become a first-class post office under the leadership of our father. He went on to become president of the Illinois Postmasters Association. Soon after our parents moved to Brookfield, our dad became very active in community affairs, and in time he became part of a group that established the March of Dimes, as well as many other activities in the village. Subsequently, he was named the Citizen of the Year. Our mother, Anne, was one of 18 children. She was orphaned when she was only 12. While living with a sister 15 years her senior, she was in the 8th grade when a national recession occurred. Being the only one in the family who could find a job, she had to drop out of school to go to work at a book bindery. Years later, she shared with me that this nearly broke her heart. However, she never lost her love of learning. She became a bookworm and read all she could of literature, history, medicine, and religion. And her idea of a wonderful excursion was to spend an afternoon in a used bookstore, and she collected quite a personal library. She had a great sense of wonder. Members of our family would smile when she would frequently preface a remark with, "I wonder." She served tea from a bottomless teapot at the kitchen table, where the family would gather to solve all the problems of the world and enjoy her infectious sense of humor. I don't recall either of my parents ever complaining about their deprived early years. This is the environment in which Michael lived as a child. He and I shared experiences as little kids, such as throwing a blanket over the dining room table to create a tent where we'd share secrets and talk about things that only kids like to talk about. Later, we would wonder together if there really were UFOs and if aliens walked amongst us. Michael changed from a mischievous child to become a special kind of teenager. He didn't have the usual problems that we associate with kids in their teens. He was always focused on music. He did fall in love when he was about 14, but that lasted about 2 weeks. And he didn't chase girls like some boys. He always chased music. Our sister Kathy was born when Michael was 14. He really enjoyed her and showed early insight in the way that he had reacted to her when she went through the terrible twos. She grew up to be a dynamic woman, and we mourned her untimely death just a few years ago. While he was a student at the University of Illinois, Michael accepted the fact that he was short of money. He, like other poor students, rented a cot in the basement of a private home. He said he was always warm in winter because his cot was under a furnace, near a furnace under the big pipe. We visited him after he moved to New York to find that he was quite satisfied to live in a third-floor walk-up in a small room with a hot plate to prepare his food. I like to think that he was nurtured by the example of our strong, hard-working parents who knew tragedy and deprivation to go on to provide a stable home for us. Michael told me that when he arrived in New York, he was impressed with how many highly talented musicians that were looking for jobs. He learned that it was important to be at the right place at the right time. The difference was, he knew that it was more important to have the courage to seize the moment and take the risk. He had that courage. He was a sweet man, and I'm left with sweet memories. Thanks for listening.